Good evening. This lesson that we heard in the gospel tonight with the healing of the 10 lepers is a story that's all about thanksgiving, giving thanks to God and why it makes a difference. It's not just simple healing story like many others in the Gospel of Luke. It reminds me, some of you know the name Rudyard Kipling, right? I mean, famous British author, poet, storyteller. When he was in college, he was already getting to be quite a wordsmith, and he would write things for the local newspapers, and he became famous among his college friends because he would make money from writing stuff. And they were amazed when, in his day, he was actually getting paid 10 cents a word. 10 cents a word. And some of his friends, tending to be a little smart alecky, like some college friends are, right? Decided that they were enough of all of this high and mighty stuff. So they sent him a package, and inside the package it had a dime. And they said, "Mr. Kipling, please give us your best word." One word. He sent them the whole package back again with a note inside, and it said, "Thanks." That was the only thing he said. Thanks. And in many ways, he and Jesus know exactly the truth. How many of you were raised by parents, mothers especially, who kept telling you, remember, if you don't say anything else, make sure you say thanks. Thank you, right? I was talking with the little kids in the gathering this morning about that, and they said, yeah, but there's some things, what if you get something you really don't like? Do you still have to say thanks? And I said, well, what would be like that? Would it be broccoli? And she said, no, I like broccoli. It's okay. We talked about how the heart of the person who offered it to you, regardless of whether or not it was something you wanted, was one of giving to you out of some affection or feeling of need. And so the best thing you can do, even if it's something you look at and say, oh, I'll never wear that tie, right? I'll never wear that shirt, is thank you, thank you. When Jesus has the 10 lepers who come and call to him, have mercy on us, Master, he sends them to the priest because he knows that as they turn and take the steps toward the priest, that means they have enough faith and trust that Jesus can actually heal them. And if they turn and go towards the priest, which they have to do in order to become part of the community again, they know that they will be healed in the process. They all turn, all 10 of them, and they turn to go to the priest to present themselves as clean people so that they can return to their family and friends and live a regular life. And one of them realizes, I have been healed. Look, my scabs are gone. They're disappearing. And that one out of the 10 turns around and comes back to Jesus and gives thanks. The reason that Jesus points out that one particular person is because in that turning around and coming back and offering thanks, the way that your mother said, always say thank you, actually made a connection with the giver of the gift that the others missed. It's not that there's some magic in what Jesus does, but he says, your faith in turning around to give thanks has actually made you whole or well. And there are two Greek words. There's one for being made clean, which was to remove the scabs of leprosy, but there's a different Greek word for being made well or whole. And that word is sozo, S-O-Z-O in our English alliteration. But in that word sozo, it's the same root for the word to save or salvation or wholesome. And what Jesus says is, in the act of turning around and giving thanks to the one who gave you the gift, you have made a connection which now is giving you the essence of real life. It's no longer simply the absence of disease. It's more than that. It's deeper than that. It's that actually now you are in relationship with the one who wished to give you the first gift. And in that relationship, you will find true, abundant life. That's why he praises the one who comes to give thanks. All of them are made clean. Every one of them has the disease ended in their life. But only one comes around and gives thanks. And only one, therefore, reestablishes the depth of the connection between that person and Jesus. It's one of those things that have to do with how in the world do we manage to live through all the difficult things that we do. Because Jesus knows that healing is different from being cured. You all know you've had either yourself or people who you were close to, who you loved, people who battled a disease or a chronic illness, sometimes all the way to their death. You also know that some of those people at some point had almost an epiphany where they said, you know, I may or may not ever manage to get rid of this disease. But they find a peace. They find something deep within themselves that gives them courage that they didn't have before that moment, that gives them strength to continue the fight even though it may not look promising, that gives them the grace to say that no matter what happens, I know that I can live through this. And it comes from having a relationship that goes deeper than on the surface. That's exactly what Jesus is saying is available to all of us when we learn how to become people of thanksgiving, of seeing the blessings instead of only the obstacles, of seeing the healing that happens in our hearts, which is greater and more important in the long run than all of the diseases that might attack our flesh. This is where the lesson about Thanksgiving is so important. There's a Christian mystic, David Steindl-Rast, that if you're not familiar with him, I recommend you Google him and you'll go to his whole website called Gratefulness.org. David Steindl-Rast has done a whole career of teaching based on the fact that if we can get to the point where we start to see the beauty of God's creation and the beauty of God's relationships with each other, then we can start to become people of thanksgiving, grateful people. And grateful people are the people who manage to live happy lives, regardless of anything that goes on. It's not, as we all imagine, that the people who are thankful are the people who started out happy. It's the reverse. The people who look at the world and see blessings even in the midst of very difficult times are the ones who can give thanks in all things, as St. Paul says, and in giving thanks establishes a depth of relationship and trust. And if I have that, I will become a grateful person who will become a happy person. I commend gratefulness and giving thanks to all of you.